Yeah, I'm basically somebody who's meandered through education. I've been in it all my life, but in a number of different ways. Um, I started out as a secondary school teacher, did that for eight
Yeah,
years. Firstly in Zambia after independence, and
yeah,
then in inner London, which was an eye opener, which led me to retrain as an educational psychologist.
yeah,
So I worked as that, and then went off to the States to do some research there around that. Came back, went to an exam board for a few years, worked in vocational qualifications and then in government stuff. And then later in life became an academic.
Um, in the course of your research, have you found that GCSEs are an effective measure of pupil achievement in secondary schools?
Um, I think I've changed my views
Mm.
over the years. I started out as um, enthusiastic in the sense that GCSEs replaced the old O levels and
Yeah,
CSEs, which really divided kids at a very early stage.
yeah,
Um, and so the bringing them together so everybody did the same, or nearly everybody did the same qualification, I saw um, as a bonus. So I was a supporter in that sense. Also, it was different then. We had coursework, um, and some had very small proportion of exams
yeah,
within the subject, and that again has changed over the years. So now we're strictly exam based, um, and so I'm less of a supporter now,
mhm,
uh, and I think I'm even more negative of the last few years, given that why are we examining at 16? Because I've
yeah,
been doing quite a lot of comparative work into exams in other countries and things. And the kind of British system is an outlier. It's the last remnant
yeah,
of doing exams at 16 when 30 years ago, most kids used to leave at 16. So it was a leaving exam. But in England, you're not allowed to leave education and training before you're 18.
yeah,
So why are we having this old leaving exam? If you look at many countries, most countries, there's no examinations, if there are examinations, till 18.
yes,
You
yeah,
build towards it, you do modules, you take credits. So that's Canada, that's France, that's the Scandinavian countries. So we are strange outliers
yeah,
in this one, sort of a relic of our historical past, I think.
yeah. Yeah, no, I saw you did a video or a DVD for Queensland teachers.
Oh,
That
right,
was
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, how they do their exams based on the teachers.
Yes,
Yeah,
well, and yeah, and they're very good because one of your later questions, the problem people have with teachers doing it is their, if you like, their bias and their
yeah,
what have you. And Queensland worked very hard to uh, get teachers to work together to moderate their
yeah,
judgments and things, and that I'd say that's a very productive way of looking at how you can do teacher
yeah,
assessment.
yeah. So the decision by the government to cancel GCSEs during COVID showed that there is another way to assess students' knowledge. I was wondering what your thoughts are on teacher assessed grades.
I would like to move towards a lot more teacher
Yeah,
assessment that way. I think one of the problems with the COVID um, period was that teachers have been de-skilled in that area. You know, they weren't keeping records because it's all done by exams. So there's no continuous assessment of how pupils are doing in a way that could be used to give some kind of grade or diploma or what have you. Um, so we saw grade inflation, and
yeah,
that's a worry. Um, and that goes. But if I just go back a step, I think one of the key problems in the English system is the level, this high stakes accountability that schools are under. That schools are in trouble if they don't get good grades. So when teachers are being said, you're going to have to give the grades, of course, there's a pressure to inflate them to make the school look better. And we saw that particularly with private schools, where the grade A's and everything were ludicrously high because, well, basically parents are paying the schools to get good grades for their kids to go off to wherever. So I think I would be certainly in favor, but it needs to be carefully done because there needs to be a lot of professional training to work on this kind of, and we need to push back the accountability system, because in the countries that rely on teacher judgment, again, Canada, Norway, many of these countries, there's not a lot of supervision of the teachers, but nor is there heavy accountability. The schools are not being judged that way, so the teachers are freer to give their opinions on this. They're not looking over their shoulders all the time about we need better grades so the school looks better, etc.
I think that's very interesting. So based on that, how do you think we can adapt exams to fit a wide range of abilities and skills?
I'm not sure we need it all by exams. So we're back with that one again, because having worked in vocational stuff, exams are probably not the right thing to assess somebody. It's what they can do at the end. So, the apprenticeship system and the like, you're judged by your practical performance more than anything else. So I think we need to broaden it. And again, it's another of these are good questions. It's another one of your questions about broadening the curriculum. That, this accountability system I call it a cat and mouse thing, that schools find ways around it. So the government then introduces things. So we've got the English baccalaureate to make you do certain subjects. We've got Progress 8. So you're forced to try and teach various subjects that the government wants to teach. And kids may have been much more interested in doing other stuff. Why did the number of students taking art or music fall off dramatically? Because it wasn't recognized through the accountability system. So I would want something to deal with that accountability system. Then we can start to broaden the curriculum and kids can have more of a choice about what they do, and what they're interested in.
That was another one of my questions, is do we think we should involve young children in the development of assessments, and how do you think we can do that?
With difficulty, but I think we don't listen enough, and the people who are most affected by exams are the people who take them. It's the students. So we should be listening more, whether you do it through student councils or more informal ways, but we should be finding out more about what students want to do and how they do it and things. And even when we find out, we don't always listen because we've got these policy priorities to say, well, we must do this and must do that. So it's difficult. I've just been doing some work in Scotland on their exam system, which is even tougher than here.
Really?
But part of the recommendations there from us all really was we've got to listen to the students. They would quite like continuous assessment, where it's not an exam at the end. It's what you've done during the whole 2 years or whatever it is. And that's how it works in most countries. You get credits from your teachers building towards a high school diploma or whatever the qualification is.
Yeah.
And we're well off. And if you look at the International Baccalaureate or the French Baccalaureate and think, well, these are built in a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. From my research into your work, I see that you're a strong advocate for verbal assessment. So do you think there's a place for verbal assessment and online exams?
Sorry, what was your word?
Verbal assessment. From my research into your
Yeah,
work,
no, I'm not picking up the first something assessment. Sorry.
verbal speaking assessment.
Oh, right, verbal. Sorry, yeah, right. So much for my expensive headphones. Can't even hear verbal. Yes, I think to be assessment gets fairer if you use more methods. If you just stick with written exams, some kids are disadvantaged from the word go, who might be quite good at oral, verbal exam. So I would certainly do that. And once again, other systems do this. You get it in the French system, you get it in the Scandinavian system, the Italian system, where there's much more emphasis on oral work and, whether somebody's understood it and can explain it and things. So I'd be a strong advocate of that.
Yeah.
Possibly not in the sense of getting an examiner in to do it, but this is where the teacher assessment comes in. I think that teachers will, from regular classroom stuff, have a good feel for verbal assessment.
Yeah. And my brother, he's dyslexic and really struggles with exams. So I think verbal and speaking assessment would be really beneficial for him.
Yes, and there are many students, just are not good at writing, for example, and that really screws them up because they know the stuff, they just can't get it down in time on paper and things. So I think the idea of using multiple methods is much fairer, sort of that way.
No, definitely. I struggled with exams because of the terminology you need to use.
Right.
So I knew the stuff, but you had to say it in a particular way to get the marks, which I found.
Yes, yeah. Well, and you're probably somebody who has better answers than the official answers sometimes, and you may not get the marks because your answer is, if you like, too good. That wasn't what we wanted. We wanted just this, that, and the other. So I think those are all around. So you've probably got some strong feelings yourselves about exams.
Yes, definitely. Don't like them.
That lead you into this work.
Yeah, exactly. So because I don't like exams, I went into a vocational course after I did a year of A levels, didn't get along with it, and I decided to drop out and do a vocational course. I still feel like there is a stigma attached around vocational courses. What is your opinions on that?
I worked for 4 or 5 years on, it was then the GNVQ, it was before your time, but that was a general vocational qualification. And it proved fairly successful. But the problem with that is they made it equivalent to GCSEs and A levels, called it applied A levels. But then the policymakers started saying, well, if it's equivalent to A level, it ought to look like A level. So they started introducing exams and doing this and doing that, and it faded away as a result. And that was quite successful because people were doing subjects they were interested in. That's the key, I think. If you're interested in something, you're going to study it a lot better. So it goes right back to the 19th century, the prioritizing academic exams, because if you think of it, becoming a doctor's actually vocational. It's an occupational qualification, as is architecture, but we call them academic subjects for prestige purposes. So we have got a real problem with this. I think one of the cruelest lines I heard is that um, vocational qualifications are good for other people's children.
Wow.
That's
Yeah. No, definitely. I was speaking to my teacher, and she said that the amount of parents that come in that look down upon the course because there's no exams, which
yeah,
means their kids don't go into it, is massive. Like loads of
yeah,
people decide not to do it.
yeah. Um, and the government is having to push very hard on things like apprenticeships, and T level is the
Yeah,
latest one. But if you look at T level, they've made it so academic.
yeah,
It's probably simpler to do A levels than actually do
yeah,
the equivalent vocational, because they've added all sorts of bits all over it. You have to pass it and everything,
yeah.
each bit and all those kind of things. So I think we've got we're not alone. Most countries have this dilemma,
Mhm.
that the academic route is the privileged direct
Yeah.
route, and you have to work fairly hard if you come in the vocational. Though if I'm wittering on here, but if you look at Norway, half the kids go into vocational, and
Mhm.
in Switzerland it's even more.
Yeah,
Um, and if you want to join academically later on, you can. There's routes, and that seems the more powerful way, that more kids do it, but it's permeable into university and the like, which is why
yeah,
we're getting degree level apprenticeships and things now,
yeah,
um, to give a route, but it's a small route, and you need a particular kind of courage just to say that's what I'm doing, because
yeah,
that's what I want to do. And I
yeah,
suspect you're doing that at the
yeah,
moment. But
definitely.
in fact, just tell me a bit about your course.
So I'm doing a diploma, an extended diploma in creative media. So it requires me to do a lot of filming, editing, post-production,
Right.
production,
Yeah.
research, and I do all of it by myself. So this documentary I'm producing is fully my own work.
Right.
And I
Yeah. Of
find it just as challenging as when I did A levels for a
course.
year.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of work that you need to do, and it's
Yeah.
constant as well. So I
Yeah.
think it's just as academically challenging as A levels can be.
Yeah. And you will be more useful when you finished
I hope
in
so,
terms
yeah.
of media,
Yeah, with all these
stuff.
skills
Yeah.
that I'm learning now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so do you think that the current system of GCSE exams restrict the creativity in learning and teaching?
Yes, I don't think there's much doubt about that. It's being channeled, and um, it's fairly narrow. What you do, it doesn't matter which subject really.
Yeah,
It hones it down. Um, I mean, some things, there are basics to every subject, and we do need to do this. I'm not a fan of you don't need to be able to, do this, to do the basics, basic maths and things like that. I think we should all know that, um, but it's given this bigger range outside, and recognizing things like the things you're interested in. I mean, there are so many kids interested in art and music that aren't getting the chance, even sport, I would say, as
yeah,
well. Um,
yeah,
and I mean, it saddens me that when you look at where the top actors are coming from, they're all privately educated,
yeah,
because they get the chance, and
yeah,
there's time in their schools to do plays, and they get the same with sport, to do the sport and things like that, and the facilities.
yeah,
Um, and kids who would enjoy and benefit don't get the opportunities, because they've got to do their 8 subjects, and they've got to do this and the like. So uh, it's not a very admirable system. We
yeah,
could do better. Could do
yeah.
better.
No, as you were saying earlier, there's a lot of pressure on the teachers to get the grades that the school want. So it restricts what they can teach the students because there's such a strict curriculum that they need to follow.
Yeah, yeah,
I think, if you give students and teachers more control and more choice, they're going to do better no matter what because they've chosen to do those subjects
Yeah,
they like.
exactly.
Which
Yeah.
is what I was when I was doing my research into different school systems. Was Finland came up a lot, and they don't do exams till they're 18, and they're very
Yeah, that's
like
right. 18.
vocational
Yeah,
courses, and they seem to thrive with what they do out there.
yeah.
And I feel like with having done teacher assessed grades, it's definitely an opportunity for us to re-evaluate the system that we have now.
Yeah, I agree. And it is that thing of what professional development do we want? If I go back, this is always, old war stories and things, but if you went back to CSE before GCSE, teachers would make up their own syllabus for the school, and they would examine it. It was called a Mode 3. But it gave teachers the opportunity to design a curriculum. Well, teachers nowadays, younger teachers wouldn't know how to do it even because they've come through a system where this is what you have to deliver to your pupils, and they have to do the exam. So I don't find it very admirable, really.
Again, when I was doing my research, I came across another one of your videos about where you talked about intelligence and how you can define intelligence, and how different places have how many different ways you can define intelligence, which makes it very difficult to create an exam to measure intelligence, essentially, because there's so many different ways. Which I found very interesting.
Yeah, you mustn't get me going on intelligence because I have very strong views on it, but it is that assumption that you can give somebody a number and that's it, and that's what they are. And that's another very British and American tradition that much of the world is freer from, the idea that you're born, some have it and some don't, which was behind the whole grammar school, secondary modern school before comprehensive schools. Was that some have got it and some haven't, and the 11 plus decided whether you had. So I think that was an even more powerful way of telling kids you've not got it, you didn't pass the 11 plus, and that was 70% of children were being told they didn't really have academic potential.
I think that also creates a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. So tell them that at such a young age, they'll tell themselves that throughout their time in school.
That was the message. And I think it was a deliberate message as well, that you don't need all those educated people. One of the better things of comprehensive school, but it's just the way society has changed as well, is that everybody has to get fairly good and think for themselves, and all the things that used to be the privileged would do that, and you just do what you're told. Those days are largely gone, I think.
No, I did my 11 plus, and I didn't get the grade I needed to get in. At such a young age, you work so hard and you fail and you don't get into that class. It's like quite a downer. Definitely.
I mean, it's in terms of identity and who you think you are. That's a crucial one, I think, and it takes some recovering from to realize that you can do stuff. And
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. It was really interesting, and I'm glad I got your opinions and your views. It'll be very helpful for me in my documentary.
And will I get a chance to see your work when it's done?
Definitely.
That would
when
be
it's
lovely.
all finished, I'll send it over to you.
Oh, smashing. Good. Well, thank you for arranging it in such an orderly and useful way, and the questions as well. So I hope I haven't never mind.
No, it's been great. It's been very insightful.
It's been nice talking to you.
It's been great talking to you. I'll stop recording now.
My name's Andy Love, and I'm a teacher. This is my 30th year in secondary teaching. I've been here 11 years at Highdown School in Reading, and I am the professional tutor. So my responsibility is to develop new teachers into the profession, and also to develop existing teachers to make them better teachers.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Good.
When I started being a teacher and I had to deliver GCSEs, I felt that they were interesting and relevant and exciting, and there was lots of ways that students could I had flexibility in how I taught and delivered the content. I enjoyed teaching the content and seeing young people learn and developing. I then realised after a few years that it wasn't just about the content that was important about young people's learning. It was the skills they were developing, the skills about their speaking and their ability to organise information and a way to present information. So I saw that there was much bigger picture for GCSEs. And that was when my love affair with GCSEs started to wane, because we were just testing them all for one set of academic content, and all the lovely skills they needed to master that content didn't seem to be valued. We were just looking at the end product and not looking at the journey that those young people were developing. And to be honest, it was a more exciting journey developing and learning those skills rather than just that final grade on a GCSE paper. COVID was an interesting time, and it was thrown together very quickly to solve a problem, but it did open up, it allowed teachers to start thinking about teacher assessment for the first time. For the first time, teachers had been given permission, had been given ownership to look at teacher assessed grades, and it empowered teachers to really look at their curriculum and look at their delivery and look at all the lovely skills that young people are developing beyond just that grade 7, 8, 9. So I think for the first time it empowered teachers, and that empowerment of teachers is key to having a progressive discussion about how we assess young people. We're in a pressurised system. The teachers have got targets, the young people have got targets that are set way back when they're in primary school with their SATs. And then what we use is we kind of then extrapolate what those targets should be from that little young person who's 5-year-old in a primary classroom. Suddenly we're saying, right, you're going to be able to get a grade 7 in science when they don't even know what science is in those first primary SATs. So there is pressure on young people and on the teachers throughout this whole system. And that pressure results in negative thoughts. It's a barrier to success, that pressure.
Having been in your lessons in biology, you made your lessons very creative as possible by bringing in sweets and making videos and bringing in Coke for the test of caffeine. Do you think that the current system of GCSEs restrict creativity in teaching and learning?
I totally agree, and sadly to say that, and it's with a heavy heart I say that, because it is very criteria based. You know, you have to be able to explain the process of fractional distillation. And what I would love to see more of is the creativity and how teachers can develop a programme of study to allow that explanation of fractional distillation to take place. And for that creativity, you need space, you need time, you need resources, and I feel that's all been taken away from our curriculum because of the pressure to make sure that our young people are able to explain fractional distillation. So what happens? We buy in PowerPoints and we buy in resources where all of these materials are presented and given to us, but we don't own them. We don't own those resources, they're given to us. And teachers need the time and the resources and the knowledge of their young people to build their own resources to teach fractional distillation. Many students enjoy the pressure. They enjoy the pressure of being successful. because that's what they've learned. They've learned that success is to pass that exam, therefore they are motivated to pass that exam. That is their success criteria. But I feel you should be looking at it in a different point of view, where your success today is to be able to have a debate, to be able to answer a question, to be able to find a piece of information from a body of text, to make a video on fractional distillation. There should be success criteria across all our activities we do, not just in that final exam-based system. So some students will respond to that success by doing well in that exam and feeling the pressure is a positive thing, whereas I feel more and more that success should be broken down into small steps, and those small steps celebrated, working towards something bigger. No student comes to our school wanting to fail.
Yeah.
They want to be successful. It's just they don't know how to be successful. And the success that we share as teachers always comes from the fact you've got to get a grade whatever in that exam. But success comes in many different forms. And that's what we don't share and celebrate enough in our profession, because we're judged by that success in that final exam. There's a cartoon, it's been attributed to Albert Einstein, but I don't think it was Albert Einstein, where there's a monkey and there's an elephant and there's a goat and a fish, and they've all been told that they have to climb the tree to be successful. And it says everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid because it can't climb the tree. And that's so true. You feel you're stupid because you can't pass that assessment, but you're being successful in so many other ways that contribute to success in life, and they are just as important of whether you can explain fractional distillation. And I think the Finnish system is more of a continual assessment, so you're being recognised for your work and your success throughout the programme of study, not just final exams. I know it starts later, so they can play more as children, and parents are funded, I think, by the state system to spend more time at home. They're encouraged, which is brilliant. We should be advocating that more and more. And I think they don't sit their exams till much later, so they're not dealt with this kind of pressure at 15, 16 to sit 30 plus. And some students are sitting 30 plus exams at this GCSE time. So that can only be a good thing. We have to move with the times. If you look at a picture of a classroom from Victorian times and you look at a picture of a classroom now in 2024, there is no different. Students sit in rows and desks with a teacher at the front of the classroom. Yet society, technology has moved on in so many ways, yet we are still delivering a curriculum that is basically rooted in 150 plus years ago. We need to look at our exam system, we need to look at our assessment system. As you said earlier, the assessment should be ongoing throughout a whole programme of study, and it should be a variety of assessment methods. You know, if that fish can't climb the tree and it spends its whole life feeling stupid because it can't climb a tree, that fish is the absolute expert of that water environment. So there should be some form of assessment in that water environment for that fish. So we need to look at our assessment system and differentiate it and include a wide variety of assessment methods. Young people can pick up a phone now and make a TikTok in 30 seconds, showcasing such a variety of skills. And I think we must embrace this, different methods of assessment and showcasing what makes makes young people successful. Some examples we've done is we've got students in year 12 to make videos demonstrating different processes that they've learned, and then we peer assess it, so they assess each other's according to a criteria. That's just as valid as them going in and sitting a test on those questions. But what's more important is those young people are motivated to make those videos. Young people are motivated to showcase their learning. They are motivated to be successful because it's low stress, it's low stakes, but it's utilising skills that they need to be successful young people in the 21st century.
Yeah.
The content of the curriculum has got to change. We are fixated with this content-driven curriculum, being able to explain fractional distillation, to be able to do simultaneous equations, and they all demand a certain cognitive ability to undertake those things, and that's what you're testing. You're testing the cognitive ability. But I feel our exam system is, as you say, memory-based. So if you can memorise a lot of these, and students now are getting savvy and they're memorising mark schemes, but is that true learning? And is that actually underpinning the motivation behind the learning as well? So we need to make our curriculum more relevant to young people to be successful. I can't still work out my tax. I get these numbers on my wage slip every month and I think, are they right? Because do you know what? Nobody sat down with me, and I'm ancient, and nobody sat down with me and showed me what to do. But wouldn't that be perfect? And that's about a responsibility for being an adult in this country to pay tax. So let's give the responsibility to the young people to learn how to pay tax.
Yeah.
And what you have to do to pay tax. And where's that tax going?
Yeah.
You know? And then we might appreciate a little bit more about society, because
Yeah.
we're all contributing to society and we understand how society works.
Yeah.
Winning Biology Teacher of the Year was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm incredibly proud. And I'm proud of all the young people that I've worked with over the last 30 years in getting that award. And I'm very proud of all the people who developed me as a teacher in that 30 years. And I just want to say, Millie, every student that comes into my lesson, every one of them makes me a little bit of a better teacher every lesson. Do you know that? Every interaction, every young person that comes in, spends 55 minutes with me and then leaves, they make me a better teacher every day. And how lucky is that, eh? So to get that award was, it filled my heart with joy, but I'm proud of all the people who've helped me on that journey, and that includes you and lots of other people.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all done.
So my name is Rachel. I'm a counsellor for children and young people. I also work for a charity called Number 5, and I'm a counsellor in a secondary school. Since they changed the curriculum in 2014, it's so much more focus on this one exam. I had hoped that during COVID that the whole system would be overhauled, and it would have been a great opportunity to review the whole education system. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. The teachers are under more stress. They have to reach their goals. It's so focused on this one exam. The pressure is not just on the students, it's actually on the teachers as well. The exams impact young people in a way unnecessarily. The impact that the GCSEs have on young people is, once again, as I've said, it's focused on this one exam, and it's fail or not fail. You get your grade 4, and even that's not good enough. It has to be a grade 5 for a good pass. If it was more extended over the whole curriculum, over the whole school year, it would be better for those that do happen to have mental health problems. It means then they're not under as much pressure. And it means then that they can work more to how they're feeling. The actual theory for mental health is it's if you're mentally unwell, it can have an impact on your day-to-day. That's how they actually, with the WHO, it's how they actually say what mental health is. So it basically is the day-to-day impact that it's having that prevents you from doing your day-to-day activities. And when people cannot reach their full potential, either in their studies or in their sports or in their day-to-day life, they have a mental health concern or issue. So when students aren't reaching their full potential, that is when we have an issue.
Yeah, so they're not going to, if they're feeling stressed and anxious, they're not going to be learning,
Yeah.
so they're not going to be
Yeah,
reaching that
yeah.
potential. Should we include young people in the development of new ways of assessment? And do you have any thoughts on how we could perhaps do that?
Yeah, definitely young people should be brought into the conversation. I think an overview, be brought in and a study is set up, first of all, to recognise the impact on young people and what the actual exams are doing. And it's the problem with the mental health issue with young people at the moment is it's their self-worth, their felt sense, their actual how they feel about themselves, the good enough feeling. And what should be done is it should be reviewed in a way that every single young person actually feels good about themselves and not feel like a failure. So young people should definitely be brought into the conversation, and potentially we should use the resources of our young people to move forward and bring the education system up to the 21st century.
Go.
I'm Zach Cahurst and I am 16 years old.
I'm Thomas Busby and I'm 16.
I'm Henry Beanie, I'm 16 years old.
I'm Seth Hayhurst, I'm 17 years old.
Okay. So you three.
Just want to check the sound.
No, I know it'll be fine. You three are doing your exams in May, GCSEs. How are you finding the process of that right
And
now?
it's quite stressful at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn, a lot to remember.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exams in a 3-week period, so you've got to get your revision planned out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, I think.
Yeah, lots of information to
Yeah.
cover. Seth, how did you find your exam process? What did you do to cope with it?
Just make sure planning beforehand,
Yeah.
to make sure there's less stress as possible when going into the exam,
Yeah.
and make sure the PPEs are used well, because then you know that you're going to pass
Yeah.
when you get to the actual one.
Perfect. Are you guys feeling the pressure of needing to perform well?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you need to get into sixth form, don't you?
Yeah.
You need certain grades to get there.
Yeah, for example, I need a 5 in English,
5 in English, yeah.
which is a struggle for me.
Yeah, but you're trying, aren't you?
Yeah, I got 4 in PPE. I've got a
Okay.
tutor now
Yeah.
for English.
So
So
is that
hopefully-
extra homework they have to do at home?
Yeah.
And is that harder to manage with the extra homework that you got from your tutor and from school?
To be honest, it's not too bad because at the moment we're not getting too much homework from school. It's mainly just revision.
Revision.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you think that exams test your knowledge fairly, or do you think there are other ways that we can test intelligence?
I mean, exams are good, but like for art subjects, you have coursework.
Yeah.
And instead of just planning all your revision out for a 3-week period, like showing you all your skills throughout the year,
Yeah.
it's another way to do it. So like, if they do that for more subjects.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of memory involved,
Yeah,
in
definitely.
English especially,
Yeah.
in all the poems.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Some people really like exams, they thrive in exams, and Tom, you like exams, don't you?
Yeah, it's
So
good.
would you prefer exams to coursework, do you think?
I'd say for some subjects, like I'm good at memory-based subjects. It's not
Yeah.
really a test of your skills, it's just a test of how well you can remember stuff.
Yeah.
But I think for some other subjects, like maybe English, if you do an essay every lesson, plan it out, then you probably get better results because
Yeah.
then you put more effort into it.
Yeah, so a bit like how I did teacher assessed grades on my GCSEs, which was small little questions that I did in class. Do you think that'd be more
Yeah.
effective?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's less pressure for
Less
me.
pressure, definitely,
And
and more chance to do well.
yeah, definitely.
Seth, I know you struggle with exams due to your dyslexia.
Yeah.
Do you think we can involve verbal assessment and online assessments? Because for someone like you, verbal assessment could be really helpful.
Yeah, because obviously with me, I think verbally I'm better. Struggle to write what I think. So something verbally or something that says my skill set instead of maybe typical people's skill sets will be better.
Yeah.
and it would make it more like normal if I did for my actual exams.
Yeah. Do you feel ready to go into the workforce after doing your GCSEs?
Not really.
No.
Not enough skills about getting
Yeah.
jobs.
We've
Yeah.
not learned directly about getting jobs and how it's like in the workplace.
How to apply, where
Yeah.
to apply,
Yeah, exactly.
how to write a CV,
Yes, exactly.
and also interview techniques as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
you'll be
They
sat
give you
there-
stuff in mental, but it's not enough
Yeah.
for actually getting into a job.
Yeah, so mentors, what, 20 minutes for you guys with
Yeah,
it?
it's
Yeah.
not good enough.
Not enough, yeah. So I think just learning how to do an interview would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that the current GCSE structure of let me say that again. Hang on. Do you think that the current GCSE structure restricts creativity within teaching and learning? Yeah, so you don't get much choice in what you want to learn because it's such a strict
Yeah.
formula.
Because
You have
memorising
to
is
do-
set curriculum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
exactly.
such a
You have to do like a humanity. You're
Mhm.
doing a language,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah.
So you have to do follow that formula, but sometimes it doesn't really suit certain people.
Yeah, more options instead
More
of just forcing them to do
Yeah.
like RE and citizenship.
Yeah, so in Finland they don't do exams until they're 18. And do you think that would be a better way of doing it because you get more choice in what subjects you learn?
Yeah, well then if you have more time to decide what you really want to do,
Yeah.
instead of just deciding it earlier when you're 16,
Yeah,
then
definitely.
you've got more freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you think should be included in the curriculum? For example, do you think in maths we should learn how to do mortgage and how to do taxes? And like I said earlier, in English, writing a CV. Are those things that do you think we should be included?
Yeah.
I think food tech should probably be compulsory.
Yeah.
I think
Why
it
food
teaches.
tech?
Well, I think it's just quite important skills that you need for the future.
Yeah,
Just like
to
basic
learn how to
stuff to
cook.
cook for yourself.
When you go to uni and stuff, so Zach, you do with tech, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's very practical.
Yeah.
But you still have theory.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that would deter certain people because of the theory side? Do you think it should just be practical?
To an extent, yeah. I think the practical should be sort of mixed in with the theory
Yeah.
to entice people more to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of just have two separate exams like coursework and then
Yeah.
a different exam.
That's a good idea. And Seth, you did photography.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Because it's more meant to be a practical
Yeah.
subject.
I thought generally it's taught quite poorly, just because obviously they have an exam board which you have to kind of tick off criteria for,
Yeah.
so it kind of restricted what you wanted to do
Yeah.
because they gave you artists to research which may not be what you wanted to do, so kind of even though you're doing a creative one to avoid exams, you're kind of not meeting what you wanted or
Yeah.
kind of restricting your creativity.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. We're done. Thank you.
So take a picture before you move. Really sit back down. I've got to take a picture.
For me, I think I've developed different skill sets due to my dyslexia. So writing isn't good, and memory stuff isn't good, and I feel like I've learned visually, which obviously you can't really show through the current exam systems. You have different types of SMART, because you have life SMART,
Yeah.
emotional awareness SMART, and social SMART, which none of the current subjects kind of teach, and even the creative one now, because they're so new, are taught poorly. A scribe, which was an LSA, a separate room by myself, a reader with a choice. I'd had a choice of a computer if I wanted it, and extra time. I think vocally I'm better, so I could speak about something that I may be passionate about, but it's whether they restrict what you think, so you have to meet like criteria or meet what the exam board wants to meet, maybe talk about something you're passionate about.
Much of your morning, so If you could just
Absolutely fine.
if you could just like introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, my name is Claire Steiner. I am, my day job is as an HR and talent professional, and I work predominantly in the tourism industry, the travel and tourism industry. But I also work in other sectors like finance and tech, and I look after HR for lots of different clients. But I have a couple of other roles. I'm the Chair of Education and Training and a Board Director of the Institute of Travel and Tourism, where I co-founded something called Future You, which is all about bringing industry and education together to hopefully inspire the next generation of tourism professionals. So we go around colleges and universities around the UK, amongst other things. So that's one thing. And I'm also the UK director for a global charity, which is an educational charity working in countries where tourism is a major part of their job creation around the world. It's a massive educational program that many people in this country don't know about, though it started in the UK 30 years ago. And we just enable people in countries like the Philippines, South Africa, all often.
Perfect. So from my research into you and this area of my documentary, I've looked into what you do, and I realised that you have massively helped with the development of the UK Diploma of Travel and Tourism, which I actually was going to do before I got into creative media. So I was wondering what you think is effective about diplomas in assessing knowledge.
I think the reason that I got very into diplomas is I feel that industry has an opportunity to really contribute to what and be educated on when they are learning about travel and tourism.
Yeah.
And I think that certain industries such as tourism, retail, hospitality, there's a number of them, academic subjects, and therefore you need to really have industry involved to bring them to life. You shouldn't be learning necessarily just out of studying these to really understand what it's like working in those industries.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. And what is your counter argument to diplomas being inferior to A levels? As I know there's a stigma around doing not A levels and going into a more coursework based subject.
Yeah, listen, it's about student choice, right? So not every student is going to be incredibly academic and really what I call the traditional academic titles. They might just want to get out into the world. They might not know what it is that they want to do, but they want to have something that excites them when they're learning. I think some people are very natural book learners and they like that side of it, but other people want something that they can really apply themselves to in a different way. And for me, diplomas allow this different type of teaching. It allows you to hopefully immerse yourself in the topic a bit more and do things in a slightly different way. And as I said, for some people who aren't necessarily traditionally academic, it doesn't mean that they're less intelligent. They just have different abilities and different ways of learning and applying themselves. And one of the big thing to me, and has been all the way through, because I was like this myself, is how do you apply your knowledge into the real world? Education is about preparing you for the world, right? So there are different, and again, it's about student choice and everyone having different pathways into that. But for me, how do you apply what you learn? Do you understand how you apply what you learn when you go out into the world of work? And to me, diplomas give you that opportunity more than the traditional subjects.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I did a year of A levels before I went into my diploma, and I find that diplomas are just as challenging as A levels, which I don't think people realise as much. And I think that's what we need to get across to people, is that it can just be as challenging as A levels.
And I think also industry, because they potentially have been more involved in the development of the diplomas and providing resources and information towards it, they recognise the diplomas as something that provides the kind of skills and knowledge that they're looking for in the students when they're coming out into the world of work.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Do you feel that students are ready to go into the workforce after leaving education?
I think that it's getting better. I think we need to do more, if I'm absolutely honest. I still think there's a little bit of a shock system, and that hasn't been helped by the pandemic, of course. And I know you yourself are a COVID student, and that must have been really tough, because you lose a lot of that kind of socialization and that used to dealing with people face to face. And we're all kind of, when we all kind of came out, it was almost like emerging from a cave, as we came out into the world again, into whatever, the new world is, the new world order. So but I do think that potentially have had an opportunity to be more practical, to learn some of the more practical skills, and that's what is really important, and the ability to, I think, really, as I said, what I said before, the application of what they're learning.
Definitely. I did an interview with some GCSE students a few days ago, and they don't even know how to have an interview, how to write a CV, and how to even apply for a job, and just certain things like that maybe could be included in the curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned the educational charity, Global Travel and Tourism Partnership, we love an acronym. And one of the things that I'm currently just finalising is a workforce readiness course. So this is about, for exactly those things. It's about young people having an understanding of things like, it's not just how to write a CV and how to do an interview, but it's all the different types of communication and their responsibilities in the workplace and employers' responsibilities, and just feeling that you're not walking into what's going to be the rest of your life, but the workplace, not really understanding what that's going to mean for you. And not every student, and particularly those during COVID, had the opportunity to do work experience. What I was saying is, I think some young people have the opportunity to do work experience, and that obviously gives them a better insight into the world of work, but not every young person does that. So I think learning about work experience, and as I said, there are courses like the one I'm working on, if you can't get into the workplace, will help, because young people do need to understand this. And what, interestingly enough, when I go out to colleges and universities myself, and we talk about transferable skills and employability skills, and a lot of young people are like, I have no idea what that means. So I say, well, okay, these are the top skills, and I know you wanted to ask about that, but the top skills that employers want, and what does that mean, and do you think you have them? And I did one at a college last year, and we were going through them, and I was like, things like critical thinking and problem solving and communication and team working, and and I said, and all these young men, I said, does anyone feel they've got these? And they were all a bit, not really. And I said, okay, who here's got a part-time job? And there was someone there who worked in McDonald's, and I said, okay, so in McDonald's, do you work in a team? Yeah. And do you have to work together well? Yeah. So that's team working. Do you have a position of seniority? Oh, yes, I'm a shift leader. I said, great. Okay. So have you ever come a time when you run out of burger sauce, or there's too many people going? I said, right. So you have to think on your feet really quickly. You have to solve that problem, and you have to do some critical thinking. And then you might have to do leadership, and you might have to bring people together to get to solve this problem of what you're going to do when you run out of burger sauce and you've got a queue, 20 people waiting for their burgers. And just by getting them to understand that, again, it's just them going, oh, actually, yes, I do have that. And employers, I think again, it's a message for younger people that needs to happen, is that just because you don't think you've got relevant experience doesn't mean you don't have it. Because a lot of young people say to me, oh, but I don't have the right experience, and they want experience. I go back to these sorts of things, and I say, oh, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you volunteered? Were you in a team at school? Were you captain of a team at school? Did you have a position of responsibility? And I go, so those are the sorts of skills that employers want to hear about. They know you're just starting out, so they don't expect a huge amount of irrelevant experience. So I think those sorts of lessons are really important, and hopefully you get those in the more diploma-led courses than you do in the traditional academic ones.
Definitely. I think I found that doing my diploma, you realise how much skills that you can get from doing this, and how you can easily go into the workforce. And I think most people don't realise that they do have these skills. So it's quite reassuring to know that businesses do look out for things that don't seem so important when you're at college, but are really important when you go into the workforce. So it's a reassuring fact.
Absolutely.
So in the UK, we have the system called setting and streaming. So streaming is where students are put into sets according to their ability. Setting is where children are grouped in ability according to subject. And I was thinking, I was wondering what you think of the setting and streaming system, whether that will create a self-fulfilling prophecy to certain students, or it can really students lack confidence based on the sets that they're put in. So what do you think about this system?
It's not something that really happened when I was at school, which was a long time ago. But my concern is I think, as you said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're told that you're not good enough and you're put into a group with people that you're not good enough, psychologically, you're not going to, to sort of think that you can have those achievements, and a lot of this has got to do with the teachers, and I'm a big fan of teachers. I've got friends who are teachers, and they have a tough gig, and I do get that, but it's about inspiring young people. So putting that sort of labeling them, I don't think is a good thing, right? I think giving them different opportunities and different ways of learning is a totally different thing. But again, it's recognizing that. So how do you give young people a label that doesn't sound that they're not good enough? And I think that for me is an issue. And funnily enough, I think for sectors like tourism, like retail, we have an image problem as well. People don't see us as serious careers to have. But my goodness, you think about it, it's tourism is the fourth biggest area in the world, but industry in the world. 1 in 10 people around the world are in tourism. It creates so many opportunities for people, and it's a global business, and it's not just people traditionally think of the roles in tourism, and they're really important, but you've got your CEO roles and your finance directors and your HR managers and digital marketing directors and people like that, and social media executives, and all these really exciting jobs. And again, I think about giving the students the ability to understand that, and that there are things that and there's subjects or areas that they can go into that they're really interested in, and that is really important. So I think there are some subjects I think it's important to understand: maths, English, those sorts of things, right? That you're not going to get away from it. But again, for instance, maths for me was all about, well, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to understand algebra if I'm in my job? So I'm not going to go into finance. But actually, if you give them examples of where it works and why they need to understand, it's a totally different way of doing it. So again, it's slightly about the teaching, but I keep saying it's about the application of the learning.
That's what I think. I think you should involve real life situations in maths, for example. I personally was not into maths, and if it was applied to real life, like doing mortgages, taxes, that sort of thing, I think everyone would be more interested and more willing to do well.
Absolutely right. And I was very lucky because in my pre-teens, I actually went to school in America for a couple of years, and they did it out there, the school I was at, and every week one of our maths lessons was around real life scenarios, and we were in a town and we all had different jobs, and some of us had household budgets, and we changed around. We had those days checkbooks, and we had to do our own weekly budget, and we had to go to the baker and the butcher and the the supermarket, and we had to pay our our rent or our mortgages and all that. And that was that was really useful because it allowed you to understand that kind of financial budgeting that you were going to need when you go out into the world of work.
That sounds very beneficial, and I think that's something that we could think of including into our curriculum in the UK, because I feel like that would be so helpful for a lot of people.
Very much so. Very much so.
Leading on to that, because the curriculum is so strict, and there's a lot of pressures for schools to perform well, do you think that the curriculum lacks creativity, restricts creativity in teaching and learning?
Yes and no. I think that some subjects are you're not going to be not going to be naturally creative. However, I do think it's down to who's teaching them and the lesson plans and the type of teaching. So I think you can make subjects a lot more fun of teaching young people about maths and budgeting and stuff like that, and I think there are, and I don't know, back in my day we used to do these projects and we used to spend hours cutting things out of papers and sticking them in there. Actually, that was great. That was a great way of learning for me, because I wasn't sitting reading a text. I was learning and it goes back to a bit what you're talking about with setting and streaming. because some young people learn like that and some don't. And I think, you know, but it's a way of making people not feel inferior if they want to do something that's not, you know, the traditional norm that we see in schools.
So my last, or well, my penultimate question is, do you feel that GCSE is an effective measure of achievement, of pupil achievement?
Oh, that's a difficult one, because I think up to GCSE, I think a minority of young people know pretty much what they want to do. So you need to have a broad spectrum of the sort of subjects to allow you to have that knowledge across both. So part of me says yes, that I do think they're okay, but again, it goes back to how you teach them and how they're applied. So I think you need to have that. I think, you know, up to sort of 15, 16, you know, it's just giving you that kind of overall base, because again, even if you don't maybe enjoy one particular subject, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be important going forward. So I think there is about creating a foundation.
Yeah.
And so in that case, it's important. I just think maybe how we teach them.
How we teach it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we should include young people in changing the way that it can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking to the GCSE students, they had a lot of ideas of how things can be changed. And I think just including young children and like students into how they want to be assessed is a very good way to move forward, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you yourself said, you know, diplomas and you know, BTECs and people like that, they are tough. There's no, you know, they get you to the same level. And again, I think it's just a knowledge and a sense of, you know, a better promotion for those things. I've got a member of my family, my nephew, and very like you, he started A levels, hated it, and then moved to BTEC, never thought he was going to amount for much, and he's just finishing university.
Yeah.
Having done a BTEC, and you know, but when he joined university, he was like, everyone's got like 3 or 4 A levels, and I'm going, so what? The university just told you could go there because they felt sorry for you, you know. So the universities recognise it, and I think again that's really, really important messaging. BTEC's a really good qualification, as are, you know, the sort of, well, you call them, you know, the MBQs, the diplomas, you know, they're just a different type of qualification.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all.
Yeah.
They're not better or worse, they're just different.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And my last question is, we've kind of already gone into this, but what qualities do businesses look for when they're employing people?
Depends on the business and depends on the role. But most businesses, but first thing I'd say is any interview is a two-way process, right? So you are interviewing the business as much as they are interviewing you. Is this somewhere that you want to work? Does it meet your values? Do you think you'd like the people there? Do you think you'd like the role? Do you think it would give you the opportunity that you want? So there's that. But what most businesses are going to look for are people will have similar skills to the team in existence. And that, again, depends on the role. But we talked about transferable skills, but the employability skills. So that is things like good communication, team playing, you know, problem solving, critical thinking, you know, all these things, but also acknowledging that communication doesn't mean you can talk and be really, really, really chat, because some jobs you don't need to do that, but you need to be able to communicate effectively, be it picking up the phone, doing an email properly, you know, those sorts of things. You don't have to, you know, but some jobs you might need to be someone who can talk to everybody. So, you know, everyone's going to work in a team at some point. And that's really important because you learn so much from the people around you. But problem solving, critical thinking, you're going to do it all the time. Resilience, you know, I mean, your generation has shown more resilience because of the COVID than probably an awful lot of generations, you know. So you've had to deal with you know, an unprecedented event. And so you've shown resilience by working through it. So again, just, you know, as I said earlier, it's about that being able to link your own personal experience with the skills that it's developed and what you might not even realize you've developed. Now, all young people absolutely are used to being able to talk to screens, because that's what we did. So, but some of them might actually now struggle with that face-to-face. Because you know, because they spent so long talking to screens. So, you know, we have to sort of, you know, bring our way back into those are the sorts of things we need to practice a bit more. Absolutely. You know, that the employers will look for those sorts of examples. So if you're being interviewed and they say, can you tell me a time when you showed resilience, or you know, communicated well, or you had to resolve a problem, you know, you'd be able to give them examples of that. And that could literally be something that happened in your home life, something that happened in your Saturday job, something that happened at school. And then the other thing will be the attitude. So they want young people who want to work there, right? So I always say this when I do talks about recruitment and interviews. I say, you may be being interviewed for 20 different jobs. I don't care about the other 19. I want to know why you want to work for me, right? Yeah. I want to see your passion. I want to see your interest. I want to see that you've learned a bit about my industry or my company, and have an understanding, so that I get a sense that you really want to work here. Yeah. And there's an old saying, which is you always recruit for attitude, because you can train for the rest. You can teach people the rest.
My first proper interview that I ever had was when I went to my university interviews, and I'd never had an interview properly before, and it really threw me off. And I think learning how to do interviews and the skills for them is going to be really helpful, especially for universities.
No, and some schools do test interviews, and that's great, but not all of them do. And I think, you know, one thing I would say is the two things I would recommend. One is you get a friend or someone, you practice interviews. So you write down letters, you research, because, you know, online you can find loads and loads of different types of interview questions. So you can do that to other, but also talk to the screen yourself, right? So I know it's going to be predominantly face to face, but you know, interview yourself in front of a screen, or do what we call an elevator pitch, where you sell yourself. Give yourself 60 seconds to sell yourself to the person who's going to watch that video. Why would they want to, you know, interview, you know, why would they want to employ you or give you a place at university? And those sorts of things are becoming increasingly popular, but with employers, is little interviews, you know, little videos that you can send in and say, hi, this is me, you know, I've just done this, and this is my passion, and this is why I want to work here. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's very interesting to talk to you, and it'll be really good for my documentary as well.
Well, thank you so much for asking me, Millie. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on all the university placements. I'm sure you're going to have an incredibly successful career ahead of you, and I look forward to hearing all about it in the not too distant future. But best of luck with this documentary. It's I think it's a really, really great thing to do. I'm really impressed.
Once it's edited, I'll send it over to you. Send a little link.
Yes. Lovely. All right.
It was nice
to meet you too.